Is it possible to make $10,000 from sports betting? The average Australian loses about $1,500 every year from gambling, and Australia has roughly 18% of the world's poker machines and over 300 licensed bookmakers. So with numbers like that, it doesn't really seem possible that you can beat the bookmakers, let alone make $10,000. But it is possible. So I'm going to walk you through, and it's going to be a step-by-step guide on exactly how you can make $10,000 from sports betting. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It takes a lot of work and discipline to be able to pull this off, but it is possible. So you might be wondering, what are my credentials for being able to tell you this? Firstly, I'm not a trader and I studied agriculture at university. The keynote here is I actually made thousands of dollars from the bookmakers for a number of years and was able to quit my job and completely live off my betting profits. Without further ado, here's what you've come for. Now, the reason why people can't actually make money from sports betting, it all boils down to one singular fact. They treat it as intuition. The average person is going to go to a sports book and then going to select something because they think it's going to win. And whether that decision comes from reading stats or their knowledge of the sport, it doesn't matter because it all categorically sucks. That's what the bookmakers want you to do because that's how they make their money. Every single stat and more they've got access to, and that's how they formulate their lines. So with that in mind, to actually beat them, you need to change your thought pattern a little bit. And it's to think of sports betting as a financial market and not a get-rich-quick scheme, because it actually shares a lot of similarities to financial markets like gold or even currencies. All of the prices react to news and demand, and sports betting odds do the same thing. For instance, if a certain line is taking more than the opposing line, the prices will adjust, so people will go to the other one because the price changes. But there's a couple fundamental differences in why it is actually so much easier to make money from the bookmakers than what it is trading gold or currency. Bookmakers need to balance their books, and there's a whole bunch of different operators setting different prices rather than one centralized market. And these two differences, they create pricing inefficiencies, aka profitable opportunities for us. So with all this background knowledge and context in place, I'm going to tell you exactly what I would do if I was starting from zero and had to make $10,000 from sports betting. Stage 1 is promotions. These are by far the easiest and most accessible. This is where you're going to make your first few grand, and then stage 2 will be positive expected value. This is where you move away from promotions and start getting on mispriced odds. And stage 3 is execution. Essentially, how to go about this. It's the most boring part, but it's the most fundamentally important because without execution, you're not able to do this properly. Okay, stage 1, promotions. Now, fair warning, bookmakers are getting a lot more strict when it comes to people abusing promotions because a lot more people are doing it. However, there's still a lot of money to be made and it's really reliable income. With the right attitude, you can walk away comfortably with $5,000, maybe even more. Now, the easiest of these promotions and the most abundant of it is the Saturday racing promotions. You've probably seen the offer, you've sent out text messages Saturday morning, Friday morning, emails, whatever. It's the bonus bet back if your horse comes second or third. And let me tell you why it's actually so profitable. Normally, if you place a bet and your horse actually loses the race, you're going to lose your whole stake. But with this promo, it's basically like hedging yourself. It completely changes the math and actually gives you a second chance at winning because there are only 3 outcomes. Your horse wins, you get a bonus bet back, or you lose everything. For it to work, you need this promotion because this completely changes it and actually makes it into a profitable strategy. To be exact, the bonus bet is not cash, but it can be turned into cash at a very profitable rate. And you should be aiming for 70 to 80% minimum. So in layman's terms, if you get $100 in bonus bets back, you're looking to get 70 to $80 back. Like I said before, it's just downside protection. So if your horse comes second or third, you're going to get 70 to 80% of your stake back. And especially if you're betting on a horse with maybe 2.5 odds, the likelihood of it coming second or third is probably about 85%. Now, most people don't really get this and they think they can just become rich very quickly. You can't just place one bet. You need to place a whole bunch of them. With any kind of profitable strategy in sports betting, volume is key. You need to place enough bets where the edge is going to come through. With a promotional strategy, you're probably looking at 50 to 100 bets before you can kind of make any kind of decision. At the end of the day, you can do everything right in the short term and still lose. That's just called negative variance. It's in the same way you can do everything right and just make a lot of money very quickly. That's called positive variance, but it is over the theoretical value. Now, honestly, this will probably get you about halfway to your 10 grand before you get restricted. Because if you do it properly, bookmakers are going to notice and they don't like winners. That's not news to anyone. Okay, stage 2 of how to make the last $5,000. On your journey to betting bookmakers, you're going to get restricted. It's just unavoidable. Anyone who tells you otherwise just doesn't know what they're talking about. And the earliest form of restrictions is called promotional restricted, or the other name for this is called gub. You're left with all these accounts with no more promotions and they seem useless. That's when you move on to non-promotional strategies. Now, my personal favorite and the one I think the best is called positive expected value. However, there is a lot more of them. And to name a few, there's middles and arbitrage. Each one of these has disadvantages and perks, but I think the best one is positive expected value. So what is positive expected value? In the simplest terms, is just getting better odds than the fair probability of the event. Normally, bookmakers will reduce their odds, and that reduction is called VIG. That's how they're able to be profitable businesses, is through their VIG. If you're betting on the normal bookmaker lines, you're already behind because VIG is going to eat away your profits and you're going to come out as a loser. So to be profitable, you need to overcome that VIG. And to go back to why people get this wrong is because they actually care who wins. We don't. We just care for getting more value than what it's meant to be worth. Because profitability is built from the price. So if the true probability is worth $2, but a bookmaker is giving you $2.20, that's a very good price for you and a really bad one for them. And that's all we're looking for, just these overpriced odds. And to figure this out, whether it's a positive expected value or an opportunity or not, you need to take a collection of odds from a bunch of different bookmakers, ideally across the globe, and compare them in real time. Because then you can see if one is higher than the rest of the market. That's all it is. You're not trying to predict the future, you're just trying to get more value. The profit is built from being overpaid time and time and time again. Now, if you implement both of these strategies over the course of a couple of months, congratulations, you've probably made you $10,000 if you do it right. However, there is a tad more to the story than that. Now, this is the actual part that will get you to your $10,000, the execution of this. Because knowing whether or not it's a good bet doesn't actually make you the money. There's a whole bunch of other strict rules you need to follow when you do this. You need bankroll and you need staking rules. And ideally, you want to track every single bet. Because these strict rules will take you from a gambler to a sports trader. And a sports trader is profitable, a gambler is not. When you're going about this, you want to kill your emotion, essentially just become robotic. And you're going to need volume. You're going to need thousands of bets, not 10, not 20, not 100, but thousands of them. The more you place, the more the math will help you. The other part is bankroll. You can't just start with $50 and hope that you make $10,000. When you're placing these bets, you never really want to expel more than 1% of your bankroll. And you want to follow Keller's criterion because it is the best staking structure we have available. If you want to place $50 units, you need a bankroll of $5,000, $100, you need a bankroll of $10,000 because this will make sure you won't lose and you can weather the good and the bad variance. You don't want to be reckless with your bankroll. You want to treat it very carefully because it's your safety, essentially. Now, if you're interested in positive expected value or any of the other strategies I've listed here, I'm going to put some stuff in the description and you can go and learn a bit more thoroughly on how to implement these correctly. Both of these strategies will take you to $10,000 in sports betting, and it's not just some silly thing. It's been tried and tested by thousands of people across the globe because these do work. Because you're just getting better prices than what an event is meant to be worth. You're basically doing what a bookmaker does, but in reverse.